The stranger with the baby Thorkett place was alive with noise shouts, footsteps, strange alien voices bargaining for food, tech, and trinkets. Under the pale green sky of the alien city of Veshtar, a human named Jace moved like a ghost. He wasn't from here. He didn't belong, and he liked it that way. He kept his head down, just another wanderer with a jacket too old and boots too worn. People rarely noticed him, and that was the point, until she did. A soft hand grabbed his wrist as he passed a dim corner between two stalls. He turned, eyes narrowing, ready to push back. But he froze. She wasn't like the others. Her skin was silver blue, her hair a soft gold that glowed in the sunlight. Her eyes, large and bright, were full of panic. She was holding a baby wrapped in rough fabric. The baby was quiet, too quiet, with skin just like hers and soft violet eyes. "Please," the woman said, her voice trembling. "I'll pay you. Just hold her. Pretend to be her father. Please." Jace blinked. "What? They're coming. I need you to look like her father. Just for a minute." She pressed a small glowing credit chip into his hand. "Oh, be paid. But if they see I'm alone with her, they'll take her." Jace hesitated. Everything in his head screamed no. But the baby, those eyes, and the woman's hand was shaking like she was ready to collapse. He sighed. "Fine. Just for a minute." She pushed the baby into his arms, and Jace felt a small, warm weight settle against his chest. The baby looked up at him, not afraid, not confused, just curious, like she knew him. A squad of armored patrol officers passed by the alley, scanning, with red lights. One of them paused. Jace felt the woman stiffen beside him. "Everything all right here?" the officer asked, his visor glowing. "We're fine," Jace said calmly. "Just walking with my daughter and her mother." The officer stared for a second too long. Jace adjusted the baby in his arms, resting her head gently on his shoulder. The baby cooed. "Cute kid." The officer muttered and moved on. The woman let out a breath like she'd been drowning. They stood there in silence for a while. Jace handed the baby back carefully. "Your plan worked. We're done here." But she didn't take the baby. "They'll be watching," she whispered. "Please, just a little longer. There's a safe house 2 streets away." Jace frowned. "You said 1 minute, and I'll double your pay." He rolled his eyes, but nodded. "Lead the way." They walked through winding alleys, Jace holding the baby close, pretending to hum a lullaby. People looked at them differently now. A family, not a threat. "What's her name?" he asked quietly. "Ziri," the woman said. "And yours?" "Valari." It suited her. The safe house was small and dimly lit. Once inside, Jace finally handed Ziri back. Valari held her tightly, pressing her lips to the baby's forehead. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved us." "Saved you from what?" Jace asked. Velari hesitated. "They want her because she's different. Too different. She's not supposed to exist." Jace raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "She's part human." The words hit him like a silent blast. "Part human," he repeated. "How? Not from love, from experiments, from stolen genes. She's proof of something powerful and illegal. If they find out, they'll take her, test her, destroy her." Jace looked at the baby again, so small, so innocent, and now, suddenly, very real. "Why me?" he asked. "Why choose me?" "Because you're human," Valari said, "and she trusts you." "I saw it." Ziri's little hand reached out again, curling her fingers toward Jace. His heart, so used to being cold and distant, stirred. Vlar. I sat down, exhausted. "You can leave now. You did more than enough." Jace didn't move. He looked at the door. He looked at the baby, and he said, "No." Valari looked up, confused. "What?" "I'll stay for the night," Jace said, "just to make sure no one comes." Valari's eyes softened. Thank you. As night fell, Ziri slept between them, on a simple bed. Jace leaned against the wall, one hand on the hilt of his old knife, listening to every sound outside. He had no idea why he was still here, but deep inside, something told him this was only the beginning, and he was already in too deep. Her eyes knew the truth. Night in Veshtar was quiet, but not peaceful. Outside the safe house, strange shadows moved through the streets, and the glowing lights of patrol drones buzzed low over rooftops. Inside the room was dim, lit only by a small hanging lantern. Jace sat awake, his back against the wall, hand resting on his knife, eyes never leaving the door. Cir. I slept between him and Valari. Her small hand had somehow found its way to Jace's chest during the night, resting there like it belonged. When the first faint light of dawn crept through the window, Valari stirred. She turned slowly, eyes landing on her child. Then she looked at Jace, and she didn't speak for a long moment. You stayed, she finally whispered. I said I would, Jace replied, his voice low. I thought you would leave while we slept. He didn't answer that, because truth was, he had thought about it, but something had kept him there, something he didn't understand. Who are you really? Valari asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Just a drifter, Jace said. Been on a dozen worlds, left everyone behind, never stayed anywhere long. And yet you stayed here, she said softly, almost accusingly. Jace looked down at Ziri. She blinked awake. Her violet eyes looked into his. No fear, only peace. Then she smiled, and Jace felt something deep in his chest shift. Before he could speak, a sharp sound echoed outside. 3 loud knocks on a metal door across the alley. Jace jumped up silently. Valari grabbed Ziri and backed toward the far wall. Guards? He asked. Ve. Lari peeked out a slit in the curtain. Her skin turned pale. Not guards. Worse, caste enforcers. How the hell did they find us? Jace asked, already checking his gear. They may not know we're here, Valari said quickly, but they're close. She pulled open a floorboard in the corner. A tunnel. It's old, unstable, but it leads to the lower sector. Jace picked up Ziri. She clung to him instantly. No hesitation. Valari followed, slipping into the crawl space behind him. The tunnel was dark, cold, and full of old dust. Their footsteps echoed softly. Jace held Ziri close, covering her ears whenever the support beams groaned. Finally, they emerged into a cramped alley behind an old merchant's stall. Valari led him into a large chamber hidden behind a false wall, where dim blue lights hummed gently. Alien children played quietly in corners. Mothers watched from shadows. All of them were like Valari. Refugees. A tall, older woman stepped forward. Her presence was commanding. You brought strangers here, she said coldly. He saved us, Valari said. We wouldn't be here if not for him. The older woman looked at Jace, then at Ziri. Her eyes narrowed. She's the one, she whispered. The hybrid child. Wait, Jace said, stepping back. You knew about her. She is more than a child, the woman said. She is a symbol. If they find her, they will erase her, and any record of her existence. And you're hiding her? Jace asked. We all are, Valari answered. We've kept her secret, but she is starting to show signs. Signs? Valari hesitated. She hears thoughts. Jace stared. You mean telepathy? Valari nodded. Sometimes when I think of danger, she cries. Sometimes when I'm worried, she speaks without words. Jace looked at the baby in his arms. Ziri was staring at him, her eyes so deep, so ancient. And now you brought her into the city center, the elder said to Valari. Risked everything. I had no choice, Valari shouted. They were coming. I had no one else. You had him, the elder said, pointing to Jace. Why? Valari was silent for a long time. Then she said, softly, because the moment she saw him, she calmed, like she knew him. Jace stepped forward. What does that mean? I don't know, Valari admitted. But there's something about you, something she connects to. The elder's voice was firm. You must leave. You've brought attention. Stay, and you'll doom us all. I don't care, Jace said, to everyone's shock. I'm not leaving her. The elder tilted her head. She's not your blood. Maybe not, he said, but she trusts me, and that's enough. Valari looked at him then, not as a hired stranger, but something more. What if the truth is deeper? She asked. What truth? Valari reached into a hidden pocket and pulled out a small black cube. It flickered to life, showing a file: medical data, gene scans, hidden reports. This is where she came from, she said. They used human DNA, stolen from prisoners of war, from soldiers, maybe from you. Jace felt his throat tighten. That's not possible. Scan yourself, Valari said quietly. We'll know. Jace took the cube. His hand shook as he placed it against his wrist. It glowed red, scanned a long pause. Then, genetic match detected. 89%. VLAR, I whispered. She's not just pretending to be your child, Jace. She is your child. The deal was just a beginning. The air around Jace felt heavy. Everything had shifted. The woman who hired him to pretend had unknowingly brought him face to face with his own child. Ziri, tiny, warm, innocent, wasn't just a stranger's baby anymore. She was his blood, his daughter. Jace stared at the genetic result glowing on the screen. Genetic match detected to 89%. He had no memory of donating anything to science. He had never agreed to this. But somehow, someone had taken his DNA and used it to make her. His fists clenched. Valari stood silently, her hands trembling. She hadn't expected this either. You didn't know? Jace asked, voice low and sharp. No, she whispered. I swear. I was told the human DNA came from old archives, from ... samples. No names, no history. I didn't know it came from someone alive, someone like you. Jace took a slow breath and looked at Ziri. She had fallen asleep in a patch of warm light, clutching a soft blanket. She looked peaceful, unaware of the storm surrounding her. But inside, Jace, the storm had already begun. Someone had stolen his blood, created life with it, then hunted that life like a mistake. And now, fate had brought her back to him. What now? Valari asked. Now, Jace said. Now we stop pretending. He stood and faced her. No more lies, no more hiding. She's mine, and if they want her, they go through me. Before Valari could respond, a loud boom rocked the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. The elder from before rushed in, fear in her eyes. They found us. Outside, the sky turned red as security drones descended. Bright lights scanned the area. A voice echoed through the speakers. Surrender, the hybrid child. Resistance will be punished. Panic spread among the refugees. Children cried. Mothers shouted orders. JACE, single quotes as eyes locked with Valeris. You have a way out. She nodded. Through the storm tunnels. But they're collapsing. We haven't used them in years. Then we use them now, Jace said. Gather everyone. As they rushed through the back of the shelter, Ziri was placed back in Jace's arms. He held her tight. Her small body trembled, but her eyes, still sleepy, looked up at him with calm. And then, something strange happened. He felt a voice in his head. Not words, just warmth, comfort, like a whisper, without sound. Dad. He almost stumbled. Did you hear that? He asked Valari. What? She said, confused. She spoke. In my head. Valari's eyes widened. She's already bonding to you. She trusts you more than anyone. Behind them, the roof cracked as a plasma blast hit the outer wall. Soldiers were coming fast. They entered the tunnels, damp and full of echoing water sounds. Old tech flickered on the walls. Jace stayed at the front, leading them through twisting paths. But halfway through trouble, a support beam had fallen, blocking the path. The only way forward was through a narrow vent, too small for everyone, the elder muttered. We'll split, Valari said quickly. You take the children and go around. Jace and I will clear the vent path with Siri. The group separated. Jace climbed into the narrow passage, holding Ziri close, crawling on his elbows. Valari followed behind him. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the comms. Unit 3. Target found. Human male identified. Lethal force authorized. They were tracking him now. Not just Valari. Not just CIR, I.him. JACE. Single quotes his heart pounded. They know who I am. Then they know she's yours, Valari whispered. JACE reached the exit and burst into a dark, loading tunnel. But as they climbed out, 3 soldiers were already waiting. Hands up, one barked, weapon raised. JACE didn't flinch. You don't want to do this. Step away from the child, another said. JACE slowly lowered Ziri to the floor. She looked up at him with tearful eyes. He whispered to her, close your eyes, sweetheart. She did, and then Jace moved faster than they expected. He lunged at the nearest soldier, grabbing the barrel and slamming it sideways. A blast fired into the wall. Jace struck hard, knocking the man back, grabbing the weapon. VLAR, I jumped in, using a stun pulse to disable the second one, but the third. He aimed directly at ZIR. She opened her eyes, and time stopped. A glowing light burst from her skin, a wave of energy that hit the soldier like a wall. He flew backward, hit the ceiling, and dropped unconscious. Jace stared at Ziri. What was that? Valeri's voice shook. Her gift. It's waking up. Ziri crawled back to Jace, climbed into his lap, and said, out loud this time, Daddy. He hugged her tightly. VLA. LIR. I watched them no longer, unsure. No longer afraid. They'll never stop coming, she said. Then we stop running. Jace replied. He looked up into the shadows of the tunnel. This was never just a favor. It's my fight now. They started believing the Leith world outside was changing, and so was JACE. A man who once drifted from planet to planet without reason now held a sleeping alien child in his arms, ready to fight armies for her. Ziri's head rested against his chest. Her tiny fingers clutched the collar of his jacket, like she was afraid he'd vanish. But he wasn't going anywhere. They had escaped the storm tunnels, barely. The rebel network smuggled them through the sewers of Veshtar, to an abandoned skyport hangar, far outside the city's reach. The sky was painted with ash and smog. The air smelled of metal, rust, and rebellion. Inside the hangar, a group of underground fighters worked quietly. Exiles, former soldiers, and aliens who had turned their backs on the caste system that ruled the galaxy. We don't take sides in family matters, the leader said, a grizzled alien with a thick scar down his jaw. Then don't call this family, Jace replied. Call it survival. He laid Ziri on a pile of blankets and stepped forward. They're not hunting her because of what she is. They're hunting her because of what she proves, that humans and your kind aren't so different. The room went silent. VLA. Li stood beside him, her voice calm but strong. She is not a mistake. She is hope. Some of them nodded, others whispered, but most began to believe. Not just the lie, but the possibility. That night, Jace sat beside Ziri while she slept. Her small chest rose and fell, and faint pulses of light shimmered just under her skin like tiny stars trapped beneath the surface. He thought of his past. Years of violence, war, wandering. He had never been a father, never wanted to be. Yet here he was fighting like one, feeling like one, Valari sat across from him, watching quietly. She's different now, she said softly. How so? She doesn't cry when danger is near, Valari said. She calms, like she knows you'll stop it. Jace nodded slowly. I feel her sometimes, like she's in my head. Soft, not words, just feelings. Valari looked at him, her eyes shining in the dim light. That's the bond. Not just because you're her biological father, but because you care. She feels that. And you? He asked. She hesitated. I don't know. I was part of the program that created her. At first it was a mission. Then she smiled at me once. Just once. And everything changed. A voice cut through their quiet moment. One of the rebels burst in. You need to see this. Jace and Valari followed him into a side chamber. A cracked screen showed security footage, citywide feeds, hacked from drones. The main broadcast played across the screen now. The High Council of the Cast Empire stood in their gleaming chambers. A reward, the speaker announced, for the capture of the hybrid child. And the human known as Jace Wren, Valari gasped. Jace stared. They had named him publicly. They're making it personal, Jace said coldly. They're making you famous, the rebel leader added. Soon, every bounty hunter in the sector will be looking for you too. Jace turned to Valari. We can't hide anymore. Then what do we do? She asked. He walked back to Ziri, picked her up gently, and looked around the room. We show them what family really means. Over the next days, the rebels prepared. Valari taught Ziri to focus her thoughts, to calm her powers. Jace trained with ex-soldiers, rebuilding old tactics. The others watched him, slowly respecting him not as an outsider, but as something rare. A human who stayed. In quiet moments, Valari and Jace shared small conversations, small glances, something unspoken building between them. One night, as they watched Ziri draw patterns with glowing fingers in the air, Valari whispered, We're pretending to be a family so well. It feels real now. Jace didn't answer. He didn't need to. His hand found hers in the dark, and she didn't pull away. Then came the attack. They struck at dawn. Armored ships. Elite soldiers. No warning. They found us. Someone screamed. Jace grabbed his rifle, and Ziri in one motion. Valari helped the others evacuate. Outside the hangar, smoke rose like fire columns. Jace turned to Valari. Go through the back. Take her. I'll hold them. No, she said, stepping in front of him. Not again. We do this together. They moved side by side through the chaos, dodging blasts, covering each other. Jace fought like he had never fought before. Not to win a war. Not for glory, but for her. For them. A drone spotted them. Its lights locked onto Ziri. Target acquired. Before it could shoot, Ziri raised her hand. A shield of light exploded around her, stopping the beam midair. The drone shook violently and crashed to the ground. Jace stared. So did Valari.cir. I single quotes S eyes glowed bright. And then she smiled. She protected us, Valari whispered. No, Jace said, eyes wide. She protected her family. By the time the dust settled, the enemy was gone. And the galaxy had seen it. All rebels had hacked the feed and streamed it. Millions. Across systems watched a human man shielding an alien child, and that child protecting them both. They didn't see a lie anymore. They saw a father. They saw truth. They saw hope. The bloodline truth battle was over, but peace hadn't come. News of the hybrid child and the human who protected her spread across the galaxy faster than any ship ever could. Ziri's image floating in the air, behind a glowing light shield became a symbol. To some, it was hope. To others, it was a threat. The Cast Empire had failed to capture them, but they hadn't given up. Now they wanted to erase the truth from history. in the dusty ruins of an old communication base. Jace sat with Valari and Ziri beside a flickering console. Ziri played quietly with broken wires, giggling as blue sparks followed her fingers. Valari slid an old data crystal into the port. "There's something I didn't tell you before," she said softly. Jace leaned closer, watching the screen flash. "Before the program was shut down," she said, "there were files, hidden ones. Genetic files about all the subjects used in the hybrid experiments. But only one subject showed perfect compatibility with alien DNA. Only one could bond without mutation or damage." The screen loaded. Subject Alpha, codename Reno 7. Jace's breath caught. "Ren, that's me." "You were the template," Valari said. "The base model, the perfect match." Jace stepped back. "So they didn't just use my DNA. They built a project around it. You were the reason the program even began," Valari confirmed. Jace turned towards Z. She was watching them now, silent and still, like she understood everything. The revelation shook him. All this time, he thought Ziri's existence was an accident. Now, he knew she was planned. Not just part human. She was created because of him. But something else was wrong. The files were incomplete. "What are they hiding?" Jace muttered. Valari tapped a hidden file string. An encrypted folder opened. Project Echo, Phase 2. "There was going to be another child," Valari whispered. "A second hybrid. But it was lost during a failed extraction mission. Years ago." Jace frowned. "You think Ziri has a sibling?" Valari looked pale. "Maybe." Suddenly, the console flickered again. Not from their input, but from outside interference. A transmission came through. Not from the rebels. Not from the Empire. It was a voice. Young, quiet. "Father." Jace froze. Valari stared at the screen. "Who is this?" Jace asked. I don't know where I am," the voice replied. "They call me Delta. I dream of fire. I see a girl with glowing eyes. She feels familiar." Ziri stood up, walked toward the console, placed her small, glowing hand on the screen. The signal strengthened. Jace. Single quotes S heart thud. Ded, was this real? Another hybrid child. His son. They said, I wasn't supposed to feel. The voice continued. But now, I do. I feel her. The one you protect. And you. Your voice. It sounds like the voice in my dreams. Where are you? Jace asked, stepping forward. But the signal collapsed, scrambled, and lost in static. Only silence remained. Valari was shaking. This changes everything. We have to find him, Jace said. You're barely surviving with one child, she argued. Going after another could be a trap. Or it could be the only way to finish this, Jace replied. They made these children. They don't get to own them. Jace turned to Ziri, who now looked worried. Don't worry, sweetheart. No one's replacing you. But if that boy's out there, he needs us. Ziri blinked and Jace heard a single word in his mind. Brother. The rebels moved fast. A secret map was pieced together. LL records. Encrypted data. Spy reports. The last known trace of Project Echo Phase 2 was on a planet called Melkar 9, a dark, dead world used by the Empire for classified science. No civilian travel allowed. Number signals in or out. The team was small. Jace, Valari, Ziri, and 2 rebels trained in stealth ops. They stole a cargo ship, registered as empty waste haul, as they entered Melkar 9's orbit. Clouds thick with green lightning swirled above jagged mountains. The planet looked cursed. You sure this is the place? One rebel asked. Jace didn't answer. He wasn't sure of anything, only that he had to try. They landed in silence. No patrols. No drones. Only wind and ashdot, inside a crumbling bunker. The team moved carefully. Weapons drawn. Jace found strange markings on the walls, childlike drawings, numbers, equations, and a name, scratched over and over. Delta's team followed the trail underground. Broken doors, old tech, shattered lights, and then they found the chamber. In the center stood a capsule, cryoclass, still powered. Inside, a boy. About Ziri's age, pale skin, glowing eyes, breathing softly, alive. VLAR, I gasped. JACE reached out to open it, but an alarm triggered. The room sealed shut. Outside, voices echoed through the halls. They found him, sealed the exits. Prepare for recovery. Ziri stepped forward. Her body began to glow again. Energy pulsed from her. Not yet, she said aloud, for the first time with power in her voice. The lights exploded. The walls cracked. The chamber filled with light. In the blinding glow, Jace heard a thought not from Ziri. But from inside the pod. Father, I'm ready. And just like that, the capsule opened. The world that hunted them. Capsule hissed open. Mist poured out across the cold floor, crawling around their feet. Jace stared into the pod, eyes locked on the boy inside. He was small, no older than Ziri. His skin was pale like the stars. His short silver hair clung to his forehead, eyes still closed. But his breathing was steady, and he was alive. VALARI stepped back. Is this really him? Jace didn't move. Something inside his chest felt heavy. He wasn't ready for this, but the boy had already called him father. Not once, but twice. Then the boy opened his eyes, glowing, just like Ziri's, but sharper. Colder, the boy looked at Jace for a long moment, silent, then said softly, "You're real." Ziri stepped forward without fear. She held her brother's hand. A pulse of soft energy passed between them. Light spread around their feet in a slow ripple. They were connected. Brother and sister designed apart. Drawn together by instinct, but the peace lasted only seconds. An alarm blared again. Closer. Red lights lit the walls. A mechanical voice echoed. Security breach detected. Hybrid subjects located. Initiate containment protocol. The doors slammed shut behind them. Steel panels dropped from the ceiling. They're sealing us in, Valari shouted. Not for long, Jace muttered, pulling his blaster. He turned to the boy. Can you walk? The boy nodded. Can you fight? The boy looked uncertain. They never taught me how. Jace pointed to Ziri. Then stay close to her. She'll show you. They moved fast, dodging collapsing tunnels and rising heat. The bunker was waking up. Defense systems, long asleep, were roaring back to life. From the vents above, black-clad enforcers dropped down with precision. Glowing blades, pulse rifles, and cold eyes. Target, hybrid children, and human protector. One barked. JACE didn't wait. He fired first. Blasts ripped through the narrow hallway. Valari stunned too with a single shock pulse. Ziri threw up a shield to protect the boy, her light growing brighter with every hit. Then the boy Delta did something no one expected. He stepped forward, raised both hands, and time slowed. The air shimmered. The blasts froze mid-air, caught in invisible energy. Even the enemies moved like they were underwater. How is he doing that? Valari gasped. He's not just psychic, Jace said. He's time-sensitive. The boy dropped his arms, and time snapped back. The wave of energy knocked the soldiers into walls. The team ran through before the system could react. They reached the surface. Above them, the black sky roared with thunder. An Imperial dropship was already landing, sleek and armored, bearing the mark of the Caste Empire. They followed us, Valari said. No, Jace replied. They were already here, waiting. From the ship, a figure emerged. Not a soldier, not a scientist, a high commander. Her armor was sharp and golden, her eyes cruel and perfect. She walked with grace, power humming with every step. Subject Alpha, she called out. JACE froze. She wasn't talking to Delta or Ziri, she was talking to him. You were always meant to return, she said coldly. You were the first, Jace. The only pure connection. Your children are ours. They're not yours, Jace said, raising his weapon. You can't protect them, she sneered. You couldn't protect anyone before? Not your unit, not your past, and not these children now. Jace's grip tightened. Vlari stepped up beside him. He's not alone. Ziri raised her hands, eyes glowing brighter than ever. Delta mirrored, her the light forming in his palms. You still don't understand, Jace said, his voice calm now. We're not just protecting them. He stepped in front of his children. They're protecting us now. The battle began. Elite soldiers stormed the field. Drones buzzed overhead. But the children stood tall. Ziri. Single quotes as light bent energy. Delta bent time. Together, they confused and destroyed every weapon aimed at them. JACE and Valari moved like one, covering each other, protecting their children, and for the first time fighting as a family. The High Commander launched forward herself, her blade crackling with plasma. She struck at Jace with speed that blurred the air. He blocked once, twice, then faltered. She raised her blade high, but before it fell, Delta raised his hand and she froze. Time stopped. The blade hung in the air, unmoving. Wind froze. Dust floated, mid-air. Delta stepped beside her, looked into her frozen face, and whispered, You don't own us anymore. He touched her armor, and it shattered. The field snapped back into motion. The commander fell unconscious to the ground, armor in pieces. The remaining soldiers dropped their weapons. No, one spoke. The war had ended without a single death, not by violence, but by choice. Hours later, on a safe world far away, the four of them sat under a quiet sky. Ziri lay asleep on Valeri's lap. Delta sat beside Jace, watching the stars. They'll come again, Delta said quietly. Maybe, Jace replied, but this time, we'll be ready. Valari smiled, brushing Ziri's hair. They didn't expect you to care. Jace looked at her. Neither did I, he admitted. Do you regret it? She asked. JACE looked at the children. I was hired to pretend, he said, but now, this is the only thing real in my whole life. The father they never expect at Sky. Over Safe World 11 was calm. Soft wind brushed across the grasslands, and 2 moons lit up the night, inside a small shelter built from scavenged starship panels and solar glass. Jace sat on a low bench, a rare moment of peace in his hands. Ziri and Delta were asleep in the next room, curled up close, arms across each other like they'd been family from birth. Maybe, in the way that mattered, they had been. VLAR. I sat across from Jace, quietly stitching a tear in his sleeve. Her fingers moved with purpose, though her eyes kept glancing at him. He hadn't spoken much since. They arrived here, but the silence between them was not cold anymore. It was full of meaning. 2 days had passed since the battle on Melkar-9.2. Days since Delta had stopped time. 2 days since a family had formed not by blood or command, but by choice. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy, and Jace knew that better than anyone. They'll return, he finally said, voice low. VLAR. I didn't look up. We know. This place won't stay hidden forever. Someone will talk. Someone will sell coordinates. We can't hide from them forever. Valari nodded. Then we don't hide. We prepare. Jace looked up. Prepare for what? Her eyes. Metas.com. Determined. For a future. The next morning, the children trained in the field near the cliffs. Ziri focused on controlling her energy. She could now create a glowing shield, large enough to cover others. Delta practiced slowing time in small bursts long enough to dodge, or disarm, or freeze. a weapon mid-air.jace, watched silently. Valari stood beside him. They're growing fast, he said. They're becoming who they were born to be, she answered. Do you think they were created for war? Valari shook her head. They were created by war, but they're becoming something better. They're learning love, family, trust. And me? Jace asked, half smiling. What am I becoming? Valari smiled. The father they never expected. But fate wasn't finished testing him yet. Just before dusk, a rebel scout ship landed nearby. Battered, smoking, but carrying urgent news. A message from a trusted contact in the Outer Rim. A kill order had been issued, not just a bounty, not just a capture command, in order to erase Jace, Ziri, Delta, and Vellery without trial, without question, signed by the Grand Regent of the Caste Empire. This was no longer about fear, it was about control. If people saw a human father protecting hybrid children, and if they began to believe in that, the Empire would lose its grip. Inside the shelter, Jace gathered the children. Valari stood behind them, her face calm but fierce. We're leaving again, Ziri asked softly. Jace knelt before her. No, not this time. But they'll come. They will, he said. But this time, we'll be ready. Through the rebel network, word spread. Families with mixed bloodlines, hidden colonies of abandoned hybrids, humans, living in exile. They all began to arrive, not to fight behind Jace, but to stand with him. Days later, the sky burned gold. The Empire's ships appeared above the planet. 5. Dreadnought. More than a show of force, it was a final warning. A voice rang from the ship's speakers. Surrender the children. Surrender the traitor named Jace Wren. This is your last chance. Jace stood on the cliffs with Valari, Ziri, Delta, and hundreds behind him, refugees, rebels, children, soldiers, alien mothers and fathers, with their half-human babies. He walked forward. Alone. Double quotes. This is your answer, he called out, voice booming across the plains. He raised his arm on Delta, and Ziri stepped beside him. Their light grew, merged, formed a dome around the whole settlement. Blaster fire rained down and didn't touch anyone. Then something unexpected happened. Delta lifted a hand, and the entire fleet froze midair. The ships floated, trapped in a timeless loop. Inside, officers panicked, alarms blared, but nothing moved. We don't need to destroy you, Jace said. We just need you to see what love looks like. He looked at Ziri and Delta. They were made by your cruelty, but raised by our kindness. He turned to the fleet, and now they're free. The ships retreated, slowly, broken in spirit. They had come to crush a lie, but they found something stronger than war. A father, a family, a future. Months later, a new settlement rose on Safe World 11, not hidden, but proud. Open hybrids lived openly with humans, aliens, and children of every mix. They called it Haven, and at the heart of it all was Jace. He still wore his old jacket, still kept his knife tucked behind his belt, but now, he walked with two small hands in his own, Ziri on the left, Delta on the right. Valii. I waited on the porch, a soft smile on her face. This man, once hired to pretend, had become the father the stars had never expected, and the protector the galaxy would never forget.